Hey, WokeNFree Nation. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice.
For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling, start listening.
You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin, or even one of your favorite celebrities. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud.
And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. Our podcast, WokeNFree, is there too.
Now let's get into the episode. Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 247th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week, we are discussing Russia versus Ukraine war that is happening. And before we dive deep into the subject, a couple of things to go over. First, have you downloaded this episode on WokeNFree.com through the Podbean app? If not, please do so immediately. And if you listen to podcasts on a device that you can't download more apps onto, well, a couple of tears are shed, but then we ask for you to go to WokeNFree.com and go on the Listen tab to pick your platform of choice where you're going to follow and subscribe to our show. So we love all of the support we get on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora. It's a WokeNFree world. So get on, y'all, with it. Now, of course, on WokeNFree.com, you can also click subscribe to follow the show. And for social, you can always holler and find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest at WokeNFree. And then, of course, if you have 90 seconds, which you do, we'd love for you to review the show. So go to WokeNFree.com, pick your platform of choice where you'd like to give us a review at, and tell us how the show is feeding into you. And with that, I'm going to kick it to you, Khalil.
Then before we start the conversation, we probably should share a little bit about ourselves. This week we're asking, would you rather be reincarnated as an eagle or a lion?
Okay, so lion, because they're gangster and they just do that effortlessly beyond measure. So I think you'll take your spirit animal there.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I know lions are nice and all, but they just can't fly. They can't soar high over the terrain.
Not in this universe, yeah.
Yeah, so that to me is pretty interesting.
Maybe the betterverse, though.
The betterverse?
Metaverse.
Oh, I was like,
betterverse.
I think that's a different universe. The one that's better than this one.
Yeah, the betterverse.
But the thing is, guess what? Lions don't have eagle eyes. So the eagle eyes, they can see very far.
So you're just sharing fact after fact, yeah?
I'm just saying, they have great eyesight, so maybe we can provide our listeners with some insight on this topic of the Russia versus Ukraine war, right?
Which is, why did Russia invade Ukraine?
Nice. I like your segue. And what I did is I actually found on Yahoo, there's this Business Insider article, and it gives 5 reasons on why Russia invaded Ukraine. So the first one is that there's a concern over NATO's eastward expansion, and that's just there's more countries being added to actually NATO if you look over the years. And we'll have a link to that as well. You can see how they've been expanding over the years. Okay. The second reason is Putin baselessly claims Ukraine is committing genocide against ethnic Russians. And this has been popular in the mainstream news. So if you've been following this at all, you probably heard that reason at least. They definitely talk about this a lot. Another one is Putin is falsely claiming that Ukraine isn't a real country. And he actually incorrectly stated that Russia gave Ukraine the right to break away, when in fact the Ukrainian people voted overwhelmingly for independence in a 1991 referendum. Another reason is that there's dubious concerns over nuclear weapons, again made by Russia. And the last reason is Putin, he might actually want to build back a Russian empire, which the U.S. that's been talked about publicly too.
Empire? Like
the USSR. Like when we were in school and the maps had to be changed while we were in school. When the USSR fell and all those countries became their own countries.
So out of all of those reasons, do you think that that's the most that's the real juxt of what's going on here? That the USSR, like they just want to kind of
I mean, I would put that. So if I was the list, I think there's the two important reasons. Is I think is the first is the NATO expansion, because that's a scary thing for Russia, because it could mean that they might get overtaken.
Russia.
Yeah, they may be eventually. They might be invaded, because our country has went to other places and said, "Hey, you need democracy before." So who's to say that we wouldn't do that to Russia if we get enough countries on our side? So I think that is a concern with NATO expanding. I think to me, that's like the number one concern. And then in the back of the mind is definitely the Russian Empire expanding, because I don't think Russia wanted to become Russia. I think it wanted to be the USSR, and it wanted to expand and probably take over the continent if it could. So I think they do want to build back the old empire that they used to have. So I think that's like a secondary thing, though. I don't know if it's the main reason why it's happening. Okay.
Then if based on that, and I think that's really good insight for our listeners, since you started the conversation saying we're going to share some insight. So then my next question here would be, what do you think is the solution for us to stop this violence? And it is violence, folks. If you are not paying attention to the news, please do. People are being raped and killed and murdered, and it is getting really ugly. So is there a solution?
I don't think there's a solution that one individual could really do. I think all that can happen is that citizens pretty much can tell their government, hey, you need to do this. And maybe that can help stop the violence. So one thing is, I think both sides, they need to actually come to a mutual agreement is the thing. So Russia needs to sit down with Ukraine, but maybe even have Russia wouldn't like it, but have some NATO people at the table too and discuss some sort of compromise, and NATO's gonna have to give up and probably just tell Russia, Ukraine can never become part of NATO. Just give them stuff like that, at least just to ease their fears.
Russia that they can never be invaded, that they can never
because now there's even I think it's like Finland or something. There's another country trying to join NATO now as we speak. And if you look, they're on the border of Russia, they're around that border.
So it's going to create more havoc. So NATO's going to have to not come. But then doesn't that set the precedence then that Russia can dictate and orient what they want?
No, because we're not giving Ukraine to Russia. Because right now, if Russia wins, if they just absolutely win the war, Ukraine is their country, is their territory.
And becomes Russian property.
Russia just becomes expanded, and we got to change the maps again, all right? Or we got to talk about that. I know, it's a mess up thing when you think about it. It's hard because we don't want countries to just fall because somebody else said they have to and makes up any reason they want.
Don't you think though that Russia, how would Ukraine,
stop it is impossible.
Would Ukraine even be amenable to having that type of conversation? Because they've really caused such havoc. They've destroyed buildings. Like I said, people have been
now will you try to negotiate that Russia needs to rebuild Ukraine as well? As long as they don't come into NATO?
Would Ukraine even be open to that? What do they want? An apology?
Apology doesn't matter. They would want money. So would Russia even agree to that? Russia might say, all right, so they're not going to join NATO. We're happy with that. But I don't know if that's enough for us. They might still ask for more. And then again, like you said, was Ukraine going to be happy to say, hey, Russia, you did all this stuff to us. What are you going to do now to help us out? Because you bombed our major cities too. Yeah. So that's not good. What are you going to do? So that's the biggest problem. So, the real solution is somebody winning the war, but we would hope that you could come to a mutual agreement, but it's kind of bad how far we've come and how much violence been committed, even against just non-fighting people, against just citizens, right? So I think that's part of the problem.
Okay, and then when we take a step back and we start to think about why and how are these countries get into situations like that, what do you think are the main reasons why countries get into war or have such conflict with each other?
I just think of a few off the top of my head. I think that the first reason is that the countries, they want to expand their territory just to have a bigger reach. And the second reason is kind of based off of that territory thing, is that the biggest thing is our countries would want control over a resource because most resources are limited. So that's why countries like to expand, because they want to have access to that resource and not have to ask somebody else and make these bargains and try to trade with you. They just want to have it to themselves and do what they want as they please. So that would be the second reason. The last reason is that Like, it could just be a response to attacks from other countries. True. So it's kind of like Ukraine is going to war because Russia started it.
Yeah, they came popping. Yeah.
It's not like two people, they get together and they say, hey, you want to do war? And the other person says, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's
It doesn't happen like that. Somebody else declares it and you got to decide.
Oh, okay.
You could decide, all right, we give up, or you could decide, hey, we're going to battle back. And that's a war. Once you say, no, we're going to fight back. So Ukraine decided to fight back, and that probably really surprised Russia. It was like, hey, we thought you guys were just going to heel over because, Russia is a big force.
Yeah.
At least they have, like, a lot of weapons. I mean, crazy.
Exactly. So according to owlcation.com, which is a really just interesting name for a website.
Well, you love owls too, right?
No, they are deeply creepy.
That's
because they can turn their head all the way and then eyes. And then we saw that. Remember we saw that movie and that scary movie where the alien invasion, and then they were showing the owl image. I've never gotten
no, so now you don't like the nice owls. They're like nice birds though.
Super creepy.
They're such nice birds. They have good eyesight too.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not the eagle eyes, but they have some good nighttime eyesight.
Exactly.
But you don't think they're cute when they say "who"?
No, I think it's horrifying.
Oh,
I think it's a nightmare.
With those big eyes that are just like non-blinking for a while.
I'm like running out of the station. Like, absolutely not.
That's really disappointing.
I'm not here for that. Good.
It's disappointing that owls are so scary.
Yeah. Okay.
Owls don't go to war.
Now you know it's the next tattoo to get. So
they don't go to war though, so you should be happy about that.
They don't. No,
See?
They just eat you. So, according to Allocation, 8 main reasons countries get into war include the following: economic gain, which you spoke to; territorial gain; religion.
I spoke to. Wow, that's
can't
a good
forget
one.
that.
Yeah,
nationalism, revenge. Civil war, revolutionary war, defensive war. So it's just like people just want
there's
war.
Types of wars,
just war for war's sake, So,
but there's reasonings for it. Yeah.
And so what I think is really challenging is that, like, I get where these are different reasons, but I think the bigger, the humanity of all of this is that people are going to get hurt. And that people are going to die. And that it's like, why is that ever okay? Why is it okay to say, I need oil, so I'm going to kill your people? Like,
because
that just seems really
It's a little
crazy.
bit of tribalism, too, because I'm killing you for your oil to give to my people.
Yep.
So that's what happens as well. It's like your life is valued less than the people of my nation. So that's happening there, too. We're not thinking of human as one race.
Exactly.
But do you think the war between Russia and Ukraine was actually preventable?
Yes, or probably. I'm a huge proponent that I believe, if you've listened to the show, hardcore liberal here, me, and I am always going to choose life and liberty over death and suffering. And for me, I think in this case, I get that Russia probably felt threatened with the NATO, inclusion of Ukraine, but why couldn't we have sat down and had conversations? Why did we have to get so violent and get so destructive so fast? I think that there was opportunities to be more civil and to be more level-headed about this. So I just think that people didn't talk enough and not help, even negotiate other types of reasons why we didn't have to get where we are today.
Yeah, I don't think it's even probably. I think it definitely was preventable. And just NATO needed to speak with Russia directly. They need to sit down and have some talks and just know what page we were on and be upfront about what they were doing. But I mean, the whole point of NATO is to try to suppress Russia. So that's why that's not happening, right? They were created to do this. So if you have this thing created to poke the sleeping bear, eventually the bear is going to wake up in a bad mood because you can't do that to the bear, right? Sure. You got to let it rest. But it definitely were things that were done to lead to. It wasn't just like one day Russia woke up and said, you know what, we're just going to go to war. There was a whole lead up to this and it was preventable, but nobody was really talking about it or watching it. It wasn't being discussed, right? It was just kind of happening. And then they're like, oh, here's the war because Russia gave these reasons. And another reason that we didn't mention is it's again a false reason, but Russia was saying that there's like these neo-Nazis in Ukraine as well, and that they're committing hate crimes against Russians and stuff. So they wanted to stop that. That was what that's
claimed,
a big claim,
yeah.
and they're telling
and
the
that's
citizens
never been
about
verified,
that.
though, right?
No, they've never
Exactly.
shown one shred of evidence.
Yeah,
is the problem.
That. If that was because
they
again,
haven't
yes,
shown
if we
anything.
have neo-Nazi behavior, of course,
killing
that has
people,
to, that has to be stopped and that has to be addressed.
Because they're trying to act like there's genocide being committed against Russians.
Again, who are we talking fictionally or?
Yeah, there's no leader. They have nothing. There's
Lies
no
and fairy
evidence.
tales.
It's all,
and that's really dangerous. We can't.
Yeah, they're doing. I mean, they do more
It's as if he had said
propaganda.
they're weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, at least that's more general.
That
though.
Conversation.
That's a good, but that's a better one because think about it.
A better lie.
You never know. Like, what if there's that bunker that you didn't check and there was
the bangers.
Yeah.
The bangers.
See, that's a better one. Because the Nazis are worse because you got to
Filled
prove
with cotton candy. Yeah.
you got to prove that these people exist, don't you? But the weapons you don't have to prove they exist. You can say they might exist, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a lot to go off of, especially when you then
the
declare war based on this possibility of a bunker with cotton candy.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, but it's a mass destruction weapon.
Cotton
it's mass
candy
destruction.
can really hurt your teeth. And yeah, it's true.
Cotton candy of mass destruction is something too.
Exactly.
It could have a big force to be reckoned with.
With that, any predictions for what you think is going to realistically happen next now?
I don't think these sanctions that are being made is going to actually force Russia to stop.
Yep.
Like they're trying to do these sanctions and hope that like the oligarchy, they're going to say, hey, you stop the war, Putin? It's not helping our bank. Our bank is getting lower. They're seizing our yachts and our assets. And I think the cryptocurrency was getting halted for in some of the places where they're shutting down servers in Russia. Like it's affecting everything, like even things that aren't supposed to be affected.
Yeah.
And the people are being affected too.
Yeah.
Like, the citizens are.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this war is just, I don't think it's going to stop. Like, I don't think Russia's just going to stop.
Yep.
But I think it's actually worse. I think that Russia, they're going to say, all right, this is taking too long. I think we're just going to have to escalate. And they've hinted at escalation. They're going to just, go to their more destructive weapons. Talk about weapons of mass destruction. They have some of those stuff in there at hand. So they may try to start, like, trying to scare people and talk about nuclear. They might start doing that and hope that then Ukraine will lay down their weapons. But I don't think Ukraine's going to lay it down. So I think this war is going to get a little more heavy.
Escalated. Okay.
Yeah, because Russia can't just sit back here for so long and have.
Yeah, you can't. When you start something, you can't.
And Putin's not going to just say, he's not going to say, all right, guys, war's over.
Like, this was
Nazis
fine.
win. I mean, because what would he say? Like, you can't even go back. He can't go back on that lie now, right?
He only, for him, it's only a forward motion. And so, unfortunately, I agree. I think things are going to get worse, and which then likely is going to involve other countries.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's going to affect.
We can't let people, like, continue to get plumaged, and we cannot let a power get stronger at the risk of harming or being a potential threat to other powers. So it's.
I mean, it's interesting because the only thing that's been said is that no one's talked about. All right, this is just hypothetical. It's not said, but what if Russia does say we're going to actually nuke this city in Ukraine?
No
one's even discussed that.
No.
What would be the repercussions? Well, only thing that's been said is that if Russia goes into some outlying neighboring countries of Ukraine, then people will step in. But Russia's being very careful. They're not trying to step on that.
The confines of
Ukraine, they kind of know they don't want to escalate it like that because then they know they can get bombarded by some crazy stuff, and then that's going to mess up the economy even more. So they don't want to do that. But if they drop that nuke, no one said, like, hey, if you do that, we're going to come after you. So that's why I don't know. I think that could be a threat.
If they elevate to, or escalate to a nuclear type of attack, I think it then invokes our inclination to then nuke them, right? Because I don't think we could stand by and allow that to happen. Because if we do, right, all actions create precedent. So if someone does that and we don't do anything,
because the problem
that means that's an allowable behavior.
But the problem with dropping, it's not like you could drop it and just hit a military target and not affect the civilians at hand. You're going to affect the whole area.
But I mean,
and not just death of the military.
Japan has been nuked, right? Like, it's not like nukes haven't happened before, so it's
it's happened.
So it's a possibility. Which I pray that doesn't.
Hopefully
doesn't. We cannot allow more death.
The other thing that could happen, it's a really small chance is like I said. They could come to some agreement and
Yeah.
And actually give Russia some of Ukraine's territory.
Or that too, yeah. They could, yeah.
They could say, all right,
yeah,
we're gonna shrink
partition.
Ukraine and we're gonna redraw the maps and we'll give you this to make you say, all right,
but then
okay.
everyone has to back it up, and then they also need. Russia does need to financially contribute to the rebuild of Ukraine because you cannot do that.
But look what we're saying. We're saying if you go to war, you can potentially gain some territory.
I know, which is not good precedence.
All you need to do is go to war.
But the alternative of a nuclear engagement is much better to just say, let's give up some land. I think that's you, Russia. You take that. That's all you.
So that might come up if they start doing some real big threats. If they say, hey, we're going to nuke or something. That's like, nobody likes to hear that. Even if they start using even their bigger bombs. People seem to be okay with that. But if you say threat of nuke, people know because that fallout is something real. Yeah. And it has that lasting effect. That's the problem with the nukes. It's not just like a one-time thing. You know, you affect this thing for decades, this area. So hopefully we don't get to that point.
Absolutely.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time, guys. Scenario 1. Albrecht's mainstream news channels keep informing him of a neighboring country committing harsh crimes against tourists. He has always trusted the news channels as there are no other sources for news besides the restricted social media in his country. Would it make sense for Albrecht to harbor hate towards his country he keeps hearing about?
So, interesting question. Ultimately, you know, the feelings we have inside of us, you're entitled to your feelings. You feel what you want to feel when you want to feel it, but they have an impact on how you communicate and how you interact with others. And it's not good to knowingly or intentionally make decisions or get into a space of hatred or resentment because it's not going to lend for positive engagement with others or even your own treatment of yourself. So no, he should not harbor hate. But again, like I try to get to a place of solutions. Like what are things that he could do to try to change what's happening as opposed to kind of going down this like emotionally challenged place.
Yeah, that's true. And just to relate this is something that happened in this country too after 9/11. This happened in the United States. Right after the attack, people did harbor hate towards a whole group of people and a whole area of people. So it did happen and the news wasn't helping. They were,
perpetuating.
Yeah, they were perpetuating that hate. So you gotta be careful with the news. You can't let it decide, all right, they're saying all this stuff, they're right. That's so messed up, this other thing. You can't.
We just hate a whole population of people.
Don't get into that trap.
Or a whole religion, it doesn't make sense.
Don't get into the trap. Maybe you could do some more research and find out what's happening here. Because it's not all what it seems. Like the news they're a form of propaganda as well.
Absolutely.
They try to have you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And they just doing that. Well, there's different reasons why they do it, but they, in the end, they want to get more listeners and more ad revenue and stuff like that. So they'll do anything to get people, get their emotions worked up. And they just tend to go towards the negative, which is a shame. I guess that's human nature. But
absolutely.
Yeah, he needs to not get so worked up about it. Scenario 2. Ingrid is tired of her government controlling the media narrative. She decides to hack into a news channel and spread news information from outside sources. Is this a bold, brave move for a young Ingrid?
How very Hunger Games of her. She is on fire, apparently.
She's on fire, so she's not catching fire, at least.
She caught the fire and is spreading it. She is all that. Okay. And a bag of chips. And it's a little bit doing too much. We don't want to hack into anything. And we want to be able to spread information. I get the need to want to help be a proponent and an agent of change, but how we do things is just as important as what we do and why we're doing what we're doing. And so it would have been better for her to try to get a proper job in the government or a proper job in the news to be able to spread the messaging for which she's interested in getting out there, as opposed to taking these nefarious actions, because it's going to create legal and risk issues for herself and her livelihood that she may not really want for this quite young Ingrid.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So you don't believe in the vigilantes of the world?
So I love V for Vendetta, one of my favorite movies, but that approach in life is better for content in film, not for real life action. Yeah.
So people shouldn't try to stand up to their government in any way possible.
You should stand up, but you shouldn't hack your government, right?
So no, don't use illegal methods against your government.
Don't use it. Don't put yourself in. I mean, did anyone miss the net? I mean, we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we are risking our own lives in pursuit of justice or pursuit of. I mean, it's hard. It's like, yes, you have to be a little bit risky
because a lot of justice seekers break the law all the time. So what's the difference between a hacker and somebody just standing up to a racial law kind of thing?
I have to sit and think about that. Is there a difference? Is one better than the other? Oh, wow. You start answering.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. So, because it's kind of like you're breaking the law because the source at hand is not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, I think it's actually...
It's like one for one kind of thing?
Yeah, for me, it's okay. It's almost like a Robin Hood thing. She's giving what all these people can't get.
Yeah.
So I think she's okay because I believe in... They actually have a term for this. It's like a white hat hacker. Because you're hacking for good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think in this case, she's not actually hurting people. I know she may be hurting the organization, but they're hurting their people, right?
But
by not giving enough news.
What if she stumbles upon through that hack, like information that allows her to get rich off the stock market or something like that, right? Like, can't you potentially get access to things that allow you to benefit?
I mean, she could do a lot of stuff.
Like, or tap into accounts and like give yourself a bunch of money.
But she also could ignore that too, right? She could see it and she could say, I don't need to have like
are people going to believe that? Be like, oh, you just ignored that $10 billion account.
She doesn't have to transfer that to her. No, because if she does that, then people are going to definitely want to come after her. If she, like, then they're going to come after you really hard. Like the hackers that take money or cost people lots of money, they're the ones who get like hundreds of years of prison sentence when they get caught. So as long as she's not doing anything more, I would be okay. As long
as she's doing the right thing.
So people get the information that they haven't been getting. It's bold though. It is definitely a bold move. And it's not recommended for the weak-hearted.
Yeah, go ahead, Katniss.
Because it's, you can get in a lot of trouble here. You may have to leave your country too. It could be a real crazy thing.
Yep.
Scenario 3. Petra is a micro-influencer who has family in both Russia and Ukraine. Do you think she should post any information about the 2022 Russia versus Ukrainian war?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. Kind of like, what team are you on? Ooh.
Yeah, and do you talk about what team you're on?
Oh gosh, that's such an interesting conflict to be in. So I would say that most people probably would agree that what is happening to Ukraine is wrong. But maybe not. I don't know. For me, that's where, I don't.
If you say most, you definitely be right because the only people that are going to agree with it is maybe, I don't say a number, but there's maybe a small percentage outside of Russia that would agree with it. And then within Russia, that's where you get the huge percentage of people that agree with it. So that's not a lot of the world, right?
Yeah, I think the majority of the world would say Ukraine is suffering here. Ukraine is having the bigger loss here. And so in this scenario, she needs to be true to who she is as a person. And if she deeply feels that she wants people to help the Ukrainians and for Russia to stop, then that's what she has to say. And that's what she should post about, even at the risk of endangering the relationships with her Russian side of her family. Because we were just talking about this the other day. You have to stand true to your beliefs, and you have to, you cannot dim your light for other people because they are small-minded or they are going to be easily offended by who you are. You are who you are, and when wrong is happening, you have to be brave enough to say this is wrong. And what's wrong, it's not right what's happening to Ukraine, and our hearts are with those people, and we hope that this can come to an end quickly.
This is crazy. This is going to make you probably change what you're thinking. But when sometimes you speak out of certain governments, you disappear. Your family disappears.
So, like I said, you have to deal with the consequences. So, as long as you're willing...
So, does she have a right to put her family in danger just because she's...
Well, would her family be in danger, or would she be in danger?
Well, of course she's in danger. So, I would say before even posting this information, you got to go to a country that doesn't deport people.
So you can't be extradited,
Very fast and furious. Against that. That's the first step.
No extradition.
Get on a plane and go to, hey, this is a real thing.
Go to Colombia or Costa Rica.
You got to go to some special country, and then you got to decide, do I want to put my family at risk that's in Russia? Your family in Ukraine probably is at less risk because they can go to some other country and get out quick. But what about your family that lives in Russia? They're going to say, oh, look at she supports the Nazis, you know, we're going to detain you because you guys may be Nazis. That's what they would say, right? And especially she's this little influencer, they might actually
so she's
take a
have
to
to deal
it.
with the consequence and
But it's not even she. Like, should her family have to deal with the consequence of her just going to speak the truth?
They might just be like, family who? I don't know who you're talking about.
We don't know, Petra.
We don't know, Petra. We don't know.
They got
Who is this
no
stranger?
Petra here. Yeah, they could.
There's no Petra here.
I mean, they could disown her. Maybe that.
Yeah, you gotta listen. You can only have alliance based on what makes sense for you.
But you're just saying, hey, she needs to just throw caution to the wind and tell the truth. Sorry, fam.
The truth.
I can't. I tell the truth. I'll tell the truth. I don't know what you
Out
guys
here
doing.
In these streets.
Yeah, she can't even get them a warning. She can't send them a coded message or nothing. She just releases
Petra,
it.
We know no Petra. No.
That's okay. So
and your thoughts?
But you still. I'm saying you still stick to your thing.
No,
you still gotta be a purveyor of truth.
I am a purveyor of truth. I am a Virgo, and I live and die by truth.
Oh, no,
and even if it
good.
means cutting my life short, I will live and
That's
die by
fine,
truth.
your life, but you're gonna cut other people's life short too.
Well, you know how I feel about families.
So, it's family. It's not friends. It's family. Okay.
Now, my child, no.
Well, your child, but that's easy.
And my friends, no.
You can tell them, I mean, hey, come with me. Don't be messing around.
Yes, and we will all change our names.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would tell her, don't post. And
okay.
If you don't post, then you could stay where you live. If you do, you're definitely going to have to move, and you might put other people at risk. So I would say you're going to have to sit this one out, because unless you... I just say sit it out because that's messed up to do. Because what if those family members, what if they're part of the mafia or something and they come for you later?
So it looks like, of course, we could spend all day talking about this, but it is that time again. It is coming to the end of our 247th episode of WokeNFree. Very nice. Quite the episode discussing Russia versus Ukraine war. Khalil, what do folks need to do now?
What they need to do is come back next week for the new WokeNFree Wednesday episode. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday to join the conversation at, WokeNFree.com.
Perfect. And, if folks want to be a guest, please, they can submit a topic, or you can submit a topic for an upcoming episode on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. So that is WokenFree.com. For social media, always find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest at WokenFree. And then for sponsorships or collaborations, you can also contact us on our Contact Us page at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokenFree Wednesdays. Remember, WokenFree is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Until next time.